On November 6, Archangel Michael redirected your steps. The detour you resisted was actually divine correction. You're being led on purpose. My beloved child, do you remember the moment when everything seemed to stop? When your plans, your timing, your direction suddenly shifted without warning? You thought you were being delayed, denied, or even forgotten. But hear me now. On November 6, Archangel Michael moved his hand over your path. The detour you resisted wasn't rejection. It was divine correction. There are moments in life when heaven doesn't explain immediately, but the Archangel acts swiftly, protecting you from what your human eyes cannot see. That sudden pause, that unexpected turn, that lost opportunity, none of it was by chance. You were eroded, not refused. You were guarded, not grounded. Archangel Michael stepped in because the path ahead had hidden traps, silent dangers, and unseen forces ready to delay your destiny. Child of light, when your spirit trembled and you whispered, "Why now?" the Archangel whispered back, "Because your time was sacred." Heaven couldn't allow you to walk one more step in a direction that wasn't blessed. And so, the road twisted. The door closed. The silence began. Yet in that silence, divine precision was being written. Archangel Michael has been walking before you, rearranging meetings, rewriting outcomes, and redirecting people. That resistance you felt was his shield, not his absence. What you called confusion, heaven called correction. What you saw as detour, the angels saw as alignment. Listen carefully. The steps you are taking right now are not random. You are being led on purpose. Each delay is actually divine design. Here's a sacred rhythm unfolding beneath what looks like chaos. The Archangel didn't move you away from something. He moved you toward what truly belongs to you. And soon, you'll understand why it had to happen this way. A door you once cried over will open again, but this time with power, peace, and purpose. And when it does, you'll realize heaven was not late. It was protecting your future. Stay close to this message, for the next revelation will uncover why this redirection had to happen exactly on November 6. Trust me, this is where it begins to unfold in ways you could never imagine. Type "I receive the divine direction" in the comments if this message speaks to your spirit. Blessing code 1166 is now released for those walking through divine detours. Dearest soul, you have been sensing it deep within your heart, that something sacred shifted around you. It wasn't just a coincidence. When Archangel Michael redirected your steps, he didn't only change your physical path, he realigned your spiritual trajectory. The plans you once made with your own understanding began to crumble, and you questioned why the doors you prayed for didn't open. But heaven saw what your eyes could not: unseen conversations, hidden traps, and energies that were never meant to attach to your destiny. That's why the Archangel intervened. He placed you in a divine reroute that felt like loss, but in truth, it was protection disguised as interruption. Archangel Michael is known as the warrior of divine order. He doesn't just fight battles in the unseen realm, he also redirects lives so that destiny isn't compromised. In your case, the moment you resisted change, he drew his flaming sword, cutting away connections that no longer served your higher calling. You may have felt the sting of sudden endings, but what you didn't realize was that he was sealing you off from environments where your light was being dimmed. Every no you received was actually a yes from heaven in disguise. Heaven's timing is always exact. November 6 marked a spiritual checkpoint, a day when divine rearrangement reached its climax. You might have noticed strange signs before or after the date: delays, misunderstandings, maybe even moments of isolation. That was not abandonment. It was Michael's divine quarantine, protecting your spirit while God refined your path. You were being extracted from a situation that could have drained your purpose before it matured. It was the hand of the Archangel guiding you from chaos into clarity. You must understand, God's redirections often come disguised as deceptions. The detour you once cried over is the very path that will crown you. What you thought was lost will return multiplied, but only after you fully release the idea of what should have been. This is the process of divine surrender. Michael cannot lead a soul that still clings to yesterday's plan. So he first breaks your pattern, then births your promise. The places you are now stepping into were once hidden behind resistance. They could only be revealed when you finally stopped fighting the delay. Child of the light, hear this truth. Your life is entering divine precision mode. The detour was not meant to delay your purpose, but to protect its purity. Heaven is aligning your surroundings to match your calling. The people entering your life now are not random. They are strategically positioned by Archangel Michael to help unlock the next dimension of your assignment. Every encounter, every nudge, every sudden feeling to pause or move is part of this sacred choreography. You are being led on purpose, and soon, the evidence will be undeniable. Hold on, because the next revelation will show you what Archangel Michael saw when he stepped into your timeline, and why he refused to let you stay where you were. Trust me, you will want to hear this next part before you take another step forward. Type "I trust the divine redirection" in the comments if your spirit agrees. Lesson code 2244 is now activated for those walking in divine surrender. Beloved child of destiny, there is something sacred I must reveal to you now. The moment Archangel Michael redirected your steps, heaven issued a new decree over your life. It wasn't just a change of direction, it was a transfer of authority. You were being moved from human timing into divine command. Every delay you called a disappointment was, in truth, the Archangel standing at the crossroads of your destiny saying, "Not this way. This one belongs to the light." You must understand, the enemy had constructed diversions, false doors that looked promising but led to spiritual drought. And right before you could take another step into the trap, Michael shifted the ground beneath your feet. Heaven saw the manipulation that was hidden behind opportunity. You prayed for open doors, but the Archangel knew that not every open door leads to your purpose. Some doors are tests, others are traps. On November 6, the divine hand intercepted your motion because something greater was calling you. Your timeline was realigned to protect your anointing. It may have felt like confusion, like you were walking in circles, but in truth, you were being guided through a sacred detour where only chosen souls are permitted to walk. It is the narrow road, the path of divine refinement. Archangel Michael stood between you and premature exposure. He knew that if you had continued the way you were going, you would have stepped into something that looked blessed but was actually designed to drain your spirit. So he broke the pattern. He shielded you from wrong voices and closed doors that would have glorified self instead of spirit. Sometimes the Archangel's greatest gift is not what he gives but what he takes away. Every blocked door, every unanswered call, every delay was heaven's way of preserving your destiny's integrity. And now, as you stand in this moment, know this: you are being repositioned for divine unveiling. What once confused you will soon confirm you. The path you thought was broken will reveal the bridge to your next season. This is the sacred mystery of redirection. It feels like loss until you see the light behind it. Heaven never wastes pain. Every tear you shed was a seed of preparation. Every no you received was training your faith to trust unseen promises. The Archangel is now leading you through divine corridors, where new alignments, new visions, and new strength will be released. Before you move ahead, pause for a moment. Look at how far you've come even when you didn't understand. That is not coincidence. That is the mark of one who is chosen. Heaven has kept you standing because your story isn't over. You are about to see the reward of obedience. Wait for it. What unfolds next will make sense of everything that did. If this message is awakening something inside your spirit, take a moment now. Like this message, share it so it reaches those who are questioning their path, and comment what you feel the Archangel is revealing to you right now. Subscribe and stay connected because the next revelation will uncover the divine proof that your detour was written in heaven long before your pain began. Type "I am chosen" for divine alignment in the comments if your spirit receives this word. Blessing code 3311 is now active. Now hear me, beloved. When you support this mission, you are not giving to a voice. You are sowing into heaven's signal. Every seed released into this ministry becomes light to reach another wandering soul. Archangel Michael's message travels through your faith. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic act. When you give through Super Thanks membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you open the gates for more divine words to find the hearts that are lost. I invite you now, as one walking in divine realignment, to take that holy step. The heavens record every act of faith, and the oil of increase will flow to your hands. Release your seed, and let your giving echo in eternity. Dearest heart, you've reached the threshold where understanding begins to replace confusion. The more you reflect on the path you've walked, the more you'll sense it. Archangel Michael wasn't merely redirecting your steps, he was redefining the story of your life. What you once labeled as an ending was, in truth, a divine migration from one assignment to another. You thought you were walking away from something precious, but heaven was moving you closer to something eternal. Every delay, every redirection, every moment of isolation was a holy recalibration. You were not losing time. You were being placed back in sync with heaven's rhythm. When divine correction arrives, it rarely looks gentle. It shakes foundations, disturbs comfort zones, and dismantles illusions. That's what happened to you. The sudden silence you experienced wasn't rejection. It was the sound of God resetting your frequency. Heaven needed to detox your environment from influences that were dulling your discernment. That's why everything familiar started to feel uncomfortable. You were being drawn out of the ordinary into the realm of divine precision, where only those led by light can walk. Archangel Michael was cleansing the pathway, clearing the interference, and preparing your spirit to receive new instructions. There is something powerful about divine interruptions. They expose what we trusted more than God. When Michael redirected you, he exposed every dependence that had quietly replaced your faith. That's why the detour felt painful, because heaven was pulling you away from what you built in your own strength. But what's being formed in this season is much greater. You are being trained to recognize divine signals instantly. Soon, hesitation will vanish, and your spirit will respond to heaven with perfect obedience. This is what it means to be led on purpose. Child of promise, you must know this. Heaven's redirection is never random. The places you were removed from were already losing their divine covering. The relationships that ended were part of the pruning that makes room for divine partnerships. The opportunities that closed were simply unfit for the mantle you are about to carry. Archangel Michael doesn't lead you backward. He aligns you upward. Your steps are no longer scattered. They are now ordered by the divine blueprint written over your life before you were even born. And now, a new season opens. The atmosphere around you is shifting. You may feel uncertainty, but don't mistake that for absence. The Archangel is closer than ever, whispering directions your heart can now finally hear. The very path you feared walking will soon reveal rivers of divine favor. You'll see confirmations appearing everywhere, in dreams, in timing, even in conversations that seem ordinary. Heaven is speaking, and you are finally positioned to listen. Hold your ground, because what comes next will confirm why the detour was sacred. The revelation is building, and soon the full picture will unfold before your eyes. Wait for it. This is where heaven begins to show its design. Type "I walk in divine precision" in the comments if this word touches your spirit. Blessing code 4488 is now active for those stepping into heavenly timing. Beloved vessel of light, there comes a moment when divine redirection begins to reveal its hidden purpose, and you are standing in that moment now. The confusion that once clouded your understanding is beginning to lift, and what remains is the quiet awareness that you were never wandering. You were being escorted. Archangel Michael never left your side. He didn't just block the wrong doors. He also whispered to the right ones, commanding them to open at the appointed time. Every delay was orchestrated so that divine timing could intersect with divine purpose. You may not have realized it, but while you felt paused, heaven was preparing people, places, and provisions that would recognize the light you carry. When Michael steps into a life, he doesn't simply guide, he reconstructs destiny. He realigns everything that has drifted away from heaven's pattern. That's what happened to you after November 6. Your steps were recalibrated, your circle purified, your focus sharpened. The distractions that used to drain your energy suddenly lost their pull, because the Archangel had shifted your vibration. He was tuning your life to heaven's frequency, removing the static of fear and uncertainty. It may have felt like a season of emptiness, but that emptiness was actually sacred preparation, a clearing for what must now be filled. Many people mistake divine correction for punishment, but it is actually protection in disguise. When Archangel Michael reroutes you, he does so to preserve the integrity of your calling. Think about this. Had you continued on your old path, you would have settled for something too small, too temporary, too earthly. But heaven never builds on shallow foundations. The detour, the isolation, the waiting, it was heaven fortifying your roots so that when your elevation comes, nothing will shake you. Even now, Michael is commanding strength into your spirit. He is speaking to your courage, reminding you that divine timing cannot be rushed. You are stepping into a phase where evidence will begin to appear. Unexpected opportunities will begin aligning. You'll notice that some connections suddenly resurface, but this time with different intentions, refined, sincere, heaven approved. This is what divine correction produces, restoration without contamination. The Archangel is making sure that what returns to you now will serve your purpose, not sabotage it. The right people will be drawn to your light, not your pain. The right doors will open not because of your effort, but because you finally arrived at the right spiritual frequency. Beloved, do not fear the unknown anymore. What lies ahead is not confusion. It is clarity clothed in mystery. The divine path doesn't always reveal itself in advance, but it confirms itself in hindsight. When you look back, you'll realize that every redirection was a straight line from heaven's view. You are walking under divine supervision now, guarded, guided, and grounded by Archangel Michael himself. Stay with this message, because what unfolds next will expose what the Archangel was protecting you from all along, the unseen forces that tried to delay your rising. The next revelation will help you recognize those energies so they never touch your path again. Type "I am guarded by divine light" in the comments if your spirit agrees. Blessing code 5522 is now activated for all walking under heaven's protection. Beloved soul of divine order, This is the moment when revelation deepens. What you once perceived as simple delay was in fact a spiritual war being fought on your behalf. Archangel Michael did not just redirect your path, he stood between you and unseen sabotage. He intercepted plans, silenced false voices, and dismantled traps that were designed to make you settle for less than your divine portion. While you questioned your worth, heaven was busy proving it. The detour that seemed inconvenient was the very battlefield where your destiny was defended. Every closed door was a sealed victory. Every interruption was a barrier raised by the Archangel himself to protect what heaven had written about you. There are moments when the human heart cannot comprehend why things crumble so suddenly. You thought certain connections were eternal, certain dreams untouchable, yet they vanish like smoke. That was not punishment. That was purification. Archangel Michael's sword of light doesn't only fight darkness, it also cuts away attachments that weigh down destiny. He saw where your loyalty was draining your light. He saw how the wrong presence was silencing your potential. So he acted, swiftly, decisively, and without apology. Because when heaven decides to preserve a chosen one, nothing and no one can resist that divine command. The truth is, your detour saved you. Had you continued on the path you wanted, your peace would have decayed quietly beneath false appearances of success. You would have gained visibility but lost your voice. You would have achieved movement but lost direction. Michael intervened to spare you from that silent destruction. The frustration you felt was merely the friction of transformation. Heaven's redirection is always uncomfortable before it becomes clear. It disrupts your rhythm to restore your purpose. It humbles your plans to exalt your path. Listen carefully now. The Archangel did not stop your progress. He repositioned it. The ground you walk on today carries new authority because it has been sanctified through surrender. What looked like a backward turn was actually the exact route toward divine precision. You are now moving at heaven's pace, not the world's. You are not late. You are not behind. You are finally aligned. That's why peace is starting to return, not because circumstances changed, but because your spirit caught up with divine order. This is where clarity begins to manifest. You'll soon notice the patterns. Sudden peace after chaos, new ideas replacing confusion, and favor appearing in unexpected forms. That is Michael's signature, divine alignment that feels effortless because heaven already cleared the path. The detour is over. Now begins the walk of confirmation. Wait for what comes next, because the next revelation unveils the reason heaven chose you specifically for this redirection. It will reveal the generational purpose hidden behind your resistance. The Archangel's plan is unfolding, and it's bigger than your imagination. Type "I walk under divine command" in the comments if this word confirms your path. Lesson code 6611 is now released for those moving in heavenly authority. Beloved bearer of light, as the veil continues to lift, heaven wants you to see the deeper layer of this divine redirection. What Archangel Michael did was more than an adjustment of your journey. It was a heavenly transfer of seasons. You have stepped out of the terrain of striving and into the realm of divine guidance. The very obstacles that once frustrated you were the tools heaven used to refine your discernment. Every moment of silence, every unanswered question, was designed to sharpen your spirit's ability to recognize the sound of truth amidst noise. Michael was not delaying your destiny. He was training your inner hearing. Understand this mystery. Divine correction is not about punishment. It is about positioning. Before November 6, you were still operating in fragments of who you were, influenced by people, timelines, and emotions that no longer matched your calling. The Archangel had to intervene to pull you out of environments that could no longer sustain your next level. That's why you felt a strange distance, why familiar faces suddenly became unfamiliar, and why certain dreams lost their color. Heaven was weaning you off temporary comfort so that eternal purpose could take its place. You were not losing your direction. You were outgrowing it. When Michael redirected you, he placed you in the waiting corridor of heaven, that sacred in between where everything is silent yet divinely active. You may have felt abandoned there, but heaven was building your endurance. That is where your faith learned to breathe on its own. When nothing made sense, you still held on, and that decision became your offering. Every tear you shed became an incense rising before the throne, a sign that you chose trust over panic. This act of obedience activated the next stage of your path, the one where purpose begins to reveal itself effortlessly. And now, as your awareness grows, your spirit will begin to detect the presence of divine order surrounding you. Things that once took months will happen in moments. Conversations will turn into confirmations. People who were distant will suddenly reappear, carrying the help you need. This acceleration is not random. It's the visible result of heaven's redirection. Michael's hand is still upon you, arranging divine intersections and removing subtle distractions before they can even touch your progress. The confusion that once haunted you is giving way to clarity, because you are walking on a path designed by divine intelligence. Take a breath now and realize what this means. You didn't fail. You were chosen to be refined. A detour was a sacred classroom where heaven taught you to trust unseen instructions. Your ability to sense shifts before they happen is growing stronger, and that is not accidental. It is evidence that you have successfully transitioned from being guided by circumstance to being led by spirit. Archangel Michael is still watching, still guarding, still whispering. Keep your focus steady, because what comes next will expose the secret of the timing. Why November 6 was written in your life's code and why that date carries divine symbolism for your journey. Trust me. The revelation that follows will connect every mystery you've carried until now. Type "I am moving in heaven's timing" in the comments if your heart resonates with this message. Blessing code 7733 is now released for those who have embraced divine correction. Beloved one, this is the turning point of your revelation. The moment Archangel Michael redirected your steps, something sacred was inscribed into the fabric of your destiny. You didn't just change direction the day you entered a covenant of divine motion. The resistance you once battled was the final testing of your obedience, and you passed. That single act of surrender on November 6 marked the moment heaven could finally trust you with greater assignments. You were not being kept from your purpose. You were being prepared to carry it with strength. The divine detour was the gateway into your elevation. You see, every divine redirection is both a protection and a promotion. When Michael stepped in, he was shielding you from future harm that your current understanding couldn't perceive. There were spiritual snares carefully hidden beneath paths that looked promising. There were alliances that seemed beneficial but carried energy that would have diluted your calling. So, heaven disrupted the rhythm. The phone calls stopped. The plans collapsed. The opportunities faded. But in the silence that followed, heaven rewrote your coordinates. Every step you are now taking has been measured, weighed, and approved by divine order. And this is where most people lose faith, but you did. Even when you felt lost, you still whispered, "Lord, if this is you, I will follow." That whisper became your agreement with heaven, and Michael sealed it with his protection. You may not have realized it, but the days following November 6 were a spiritual recalibration. Angels began moving around your atmosphere, removing distractions and summoning favor. You were moved from exposure to preparation. Every delay you experienced since then was heaven buying you time until the new season was ready to receive you. Now, you stand on the edge of manifestation. This new direction will not repeat the patterns of the old. The people being drawn toward you now will carry divine purpose, not hidden agendas. The opportunities about to open will require spiritual maturity to handle. That is why you had to go through the detour, not to punish you, but to strengthen your discernment. The Archangel did not only lead you away from what was wrong, he led you toward what was righteous. You have been entrusted with divine clarity, and this is the very proof that heaven's hand is upon you. Take a moment and breathe this truth in. You are no longer chasing what was lost. You are now being chased by what is ordained. The energy around you has shifted because heaven has given the command. It is time. Everything you need for the next season is aligning itself. The detour is no longer something to question. It is something to celebrate. What comes next will confirm that the Archangel's redirection was the single greatest act of love heaven has ever shown you. If this revelation is awakening something inside you, pause for a moment. Like this message, share it so others who are questioning their own detour may find comfort, and comment what resonated most with your spirit. Make sure you subscribe and stay connected, because the next revelation will expose the divine evidence, the physical signs that will confirm this heavenly redirection in your own life. Type "I celebrate my divine path" in the comments if you feel heaven speaking through this word. Lesson code 8844 is now active for those walking into confirmation. Beloved, as you continue this journey with us, remember this: every seed sown into this mission expands the reach of heaven's message. When you give through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you're not supporting a voice, you're igniting a movement. Every act of faith releases light into dark spaces and brings divine truth to souls that are desperate for hope. The same Archangel who redirected you is using your obedience to redirect others. Let your giving be a declaration: I am part of heaven's plan. As you release your seed today, may heaven multiply it back in divine provision, protection, and peace. This is not a suggestion. It is an invitation from heaven itself. Beloved heart of divine remembrance, what you are walking through now is the unveiling of purpose that was hidden behind the detour. Heaven is finally showing you the why. On November 6, when Archangel Michael redirected your steps, he wasn't just moving you away from danger. He was aligning you with divine inheritance. There were blessings with your name on them that could not find you until you stood on the correct spiritual coordinates. Every shift, every closed door, every unexplained delay was heaven repositioning you for the unveiling that is now beginning. In the realm of spirit, divine timing operates with perfect precision. While you mourned what was ending, heaven celebrated what was about to begin. Archangel Michael has been orchestrating moments that seem small but carry eternal weight. That sudden conversation, that unexpected idea, that inner peace you cannot explain, these are not random. They are markers, confirmations that you are walking exactly where heaven wants you to be. You were not denied. You were being refined for a higher level of manifestation. The detour was never a punishment. It was the sacred tunnel through which you were purified, healed, and matured for divine appointment. You see, the Archangel's redirection was not limited to your path. It extended to your perception. You are now seeing with eyes that are no longer clouded by human reasoning. The clarity you feel is proof that you have been through divine surgery. Heaven removed every veil of confusion that kept you tied to lesser versions of yourself. And now, your spirit can finally discern what is truly from God and what is merely decorated distraction. This level of discernment is rare. It's the kind that comes only through surrender, through trusting heaven when logic fails. You have been chosen to walk in this clarity because your next steps will influence more lives than you realize. When Archangel Michael intervenes, it is never for a single individual. His assignments always echo beyond one life. That's why your redirection felt heavier than expected, because the destiny of others was intertwined with yours. Your obedience has triggered deliverance for people you haven't even met yet. There are souls who will find strength through your testimony, families who will find healing because of your transformation. This is the divine ripple effect of obedience. What you walked through was not wasted, it was converted into wisdom that heaven will use through you. Now heaven whispers, it is time to walk in the authority you have earned. The days of questioning are over. You are entering the phase of confirmation, manifestation, and restoration. Everything you lost will return purified. The people who could not walk with you were never meant to witness your fulfillment. They were part of the preparation, not the promise. And Archangel Michael stands now as your witness, holding the scroll of completion in his hand. He has finished the work of protection, and now begins the work of promotion. Stay anchored in this moment, because what unfolds next will not just confirm your redirection. It will reveal the heavenly purpose that was waiting for you behind it all. The next revelation will uncover the divine symbolism of November 6 and why it became the turning point in your destiny's book. Hold still, heaven is about to speak. Type "I receive my heavenly inheritance" in the comments if your soul witnesses this truth. Blessing code 9955 is now released for those standing in divine fulfillment. Beloved vessel of divine awakening, the deeper mystery is ready to unfold. You have reached the stage where understanding becomes revelation. The day Archangel Michael redirected your path, heaven marked it as a day of transition, not only in your personal journey, but in your spiritual assignment. November 6 was not an ordinary date. It was a spiritual timestamp. On that day, unseen forces were silenced. Old contracts were dissolved, and a new covenant of direction was written over your life. What you saw as chaos was heaven's handwriting in motion. The Archangel stepped into your story not as a messenger this time, but as a commander, one who executes divine orders with precision. There is a reason why your old life no longer fits you. When Michael intervened, he severed invisible ties that had been draining your spiritual energy for years. He released you from cycles of repetition and realigned your destiny to the divine calendar. You may not have noticed it immediately, but since that day, certain things began to lose their grip. Old fears, past patterns, and the weight of expectation. That was your confirmation that divine correction was taking place. You were no longer walking in borrowed energy. You were being restored to your original frequency, the one heaven tuned you to before birth. The detour was the purification of purpose. Heaven could not reveal your next instruction while you were still attached to what was expired. That's why the silence felt long. It was the sound of heaven erasing the noise of distraction. When you thought nothing was happening, everything was happening. Archangel Michael was reconfiguring your spiritual landscape, people, opportunities, even thoughts, to make sure nothing misaligned could enter the next season with you. Your pause was not punishment, it was preparation for divine acceleration. And now, a new authority is rising within you. The confusion that once clouded your spirit has turned into conviction. You are beginning to move differently, to think differently, to speak with power that even surprises you. That is because the Archangel has released into you the grace of divine confidence. The kind that does not shout but carries quiet authority. The kind that walks into rooms and shifts atmospheres without effort. You are no longer reacting to life. Life is beginning to respond to your obedience. This is what it means to be led on purpose. Heaven wants you to understand, divine redirection does not only protect you, it repositions you for power. You were never being held back, You were being strategically delayed until your voice could carry weight in the spirit. That is why the Archangel waited for the exact moment to release you. Had you been launched before November 6, you would have entered a space unprepared. But now, you walk in the authority of the corrected, the redeemed, the realigned. Your steps are divine sentences being written into reality. Hold steady, because the next revelation will expose what heaven is preparing to release into your hands as a reward for your obedience. You'll begin to see the visible fruit of the invisible fight you endured. And when you do, you'll understand every detour was heaven's design to establish your dominion. Type "I walk in divine authority" in the comments if this word bears witness in your spirit. Blessing code 1010 is now released for those restored to heaven's perfect rhythm. Beloved soul of divine remembrance, the journey that began with confusion is now transforming into clarity. The redirection that Archangel Michael orchestrated on November 6 was never simply about where you were going. It was about who you were becoming. That single act of heavenly intervention marked the breaking of old identities that were never yours to carry. The path you once resisted was designed to reveal the authentic you, the one heaven saw long before the world began to shape your story. Every detour since that day has peeled away another layer of what was temporary, making room for what is eternal. There was a reason the old season could no longer hold you. The lessons were complete. You had outgrown the structures that once gave you comfort. But before heaven could reveal the new, it had to test your trust in the unknown. That is why everything familiar began to collapse, not because you were being punished, but because the foundation was too small for the weight of your next anointing. Archangel Michael had to tear down what was built in your own timing so that God could establish what was written in divine time. This was not destruction, it was divine reconstruction. Every time you said yes to a path you did not understand, heaven heard it as a declaration of faith. Those unseen moments of surrender became spiritual keys. And now, those keys are unlocking doors that have been sealed for years. You may notice opportunities emerging that you did not even pray for, because this is how divine correction rewards obedience. It releases blessings beyond request. The Archangel has already gone before you, clearing obstacles that would have challenged your next elevation. The road that once resisted you will now welcome you. You are entering the phase of evidence. The divine correction has completed its cycle, and the result is a purified spirit walking in full alignment. Where there was fear, there is now discernment. Where there was hesitation, there is now power. You are no longer chasing destiny. Destiny is unfolding beneath your feet. This is the beauty of heaven's order. What was once delayed now becomes accelerated because it carries divine approval. The Archangel who once held you still is now pushing you forward with authority. But remember this: divine acceleration demands divine awareness. You must remain sensitive to spiritual timing, for the same Archangel who led you out will continue to guide you in. When new doors open, do not rush. Listen for the peace that confirms heaven's yes. The enemy will attempt to disguise distractions as opportunities, but your refined discernment will expose them instantly. You have graduated from the classroom of confusion into the calling of clarity. You are no longer being tested. You are being trusted. The next revelation will bring everything full circle. It will uncover what your obedience has unlocked in heaven's records, and what blessings are being dispatched toward your life even now. The finale is not an ending. It is the unveiling of divine reward. Wait for it, because what heaven is about to release will prove that every step, every delay, every tear was necessary. Type "I am ready for heaven's reward" in the comments if this truth speaks into your spirit. Blessing code 1119 is now released for those who have completed their season of divine refinement. Beloved, radiant soul, You have reached the completion of a sacred cycle. What began as uncertainty has now unfolded into divine understanding. The detour you once resisted was never meant to break you. It was meant to birth you. On November 6, when Archangel Michael intervened, heaven rewrote the script of your destiny. You may not have realized it then, but that moment was the silent turning of a celestial key. The route you thought was lost was replaced with one that led directly into your purpose. You were never wandering aimlessly. You were being escorted by divine intelligence. Every delay, every confusion, every silence was a signal that heaven was still working behind the veil. You must now see the grand design for what it truly is. The redirection was not about keeping you away from something wrong. It was about preparing you for something greater. When Archangel Michael stepped into your path, he redirected not just your steps but your spirit. He pulled you out of cycles that could not contain your calling. He rescued you from timelines that would have limited your growth. What felt like endings were actually upgrades disguised in divine disguise. And now, as you stand in this moment, the Archangel's voice echoes through your atmosphere, saying, "It was all worth it." You are now standing exactly where heaven wanted you. Look around and sense the peace that has begun to fill your spirit. That peace is proof that you are walking in alignment. Heaven's timing has replaced your timing. The confusion has given birth to clarity. The wounds have turned into wisdom. Every test you endured was a doorway into transformation. What you survived has become sacred proof that divine correction is one of heaven's highest forms of love. The enemy thought the detour would distract you, but Archangel Michael used it to develop you. He turned resistance into revelation, delay into direction, and loss into leadership. This is why your spirit feels different, because it is different. You have crossed over. Beloved, heaven is now calling you to step forward without hesitation. The time of questioning is over. The road that once seemed uncertain is now illuminated. You will begin to witness divine order manifest in tangible form. Unexpected favor, restored relationships, opportunities that align perfectly with your purpose. Do not fear what is new, for Michael has already gone before you. Every step you take now is guided, guarded, and graced. You have graduated from being redirected to being divinely released. The season of struggle has given way to a season of confirmation. Heaven is not silent anymore. It is singing over you. Pause for a moment and give thanks. The detour has fulfilled its mission. The lesson has become legacy. And now, a new chapter opens, one written not by your plans but by heaven's perfect design. You are living proof that divine correction is divine love in motion. As you move forward, walk with awareness, for others will soon ask how you survived the redirection. When they do, tell them, "I did not survive, I was transformed." Before you go, make this message a declaration. Like this video, share it with someone standing at their own crossroads, and leave a comment below about what part of this journey spoke most to you. If this message has touched your spirit, subscribe to stay connected, because more divine revelations are coming that will strengthen your walk with heaven. Type "I walk in heaven's completion" in the comments if your spirit bears witness to this final revelation. Blessing code 1212 is now active for all who have walked through divine redirection into divine reward. Beloved child, this message carries more than words. It carries a calling. If you have felt heaven speaking through this journey, now is the moment to respond with faith. Every time you sow into this mission through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you help this divine message reach souls who are still wandering through their own detours. You are not giving to a platform. You are sowing into purpose. Archangel Michael's words spread through your obedience. As you release your seed today, speak this declaration. My giving is my agreement with heaven. The windows of favor are open, and the oil of increase will flow to every hand that releases in faith. This is a holy moment. Step into it, and let heaven record your name among those who stood with the mission of light.